One morning in 1976, in a cold room in Far Rockaway, Phil Ochs tied a rope around his neck, ending his life at 35. Just 13 years earlier, at the Newport Folk Festival, his guitar rang out, his voice tore through the sky, and thousands cheered his anti-war songs. How did a man who lit up America choose darkness? Friends said. Phil whispered about an invisible enemy stalking him. A letter of apology to his wife, never fully seen. A poem, rumored to be torn in half, spoke of fear. And the name John Train, a persona he adopted as if fleeing something. Was Phil swallowed by his inner demons, or did a hidden hand extinguish his flame? Join me as we step into the story of a man who fought guns with songs but couldn't save himself from the shadows. Did someone silence that voice? Or did Phil know something nobody dared to say? Chapter 1. A childhood shaped by wounds. One night in El Paso, Texas, a dim oil lamp flickered in a small house. Gertrude, Phil Ochs' mother, sat mending clothes in the shadows, her hands trembling with worry. His father, Jack, had just been taken to a mental hospital by ambulance, leaving the cries of Phil's sister Sonia and brother Michael echoing in the hallway. 7-year-old Phil hid under the table, clutching an old clarinet. Its shaky notes were the only way he felt heard, as if music could drown out the arguments and emptiness of a broken family. Phil grew up amid endless moves. From Texas to New York, then Ohio, so many he couldn't recall which place felt like home. His father, a doctor who served in World War II, came back with psychological wounds that never healed. His mother tried to hold the family together, but her eyes carried a sadness, as if she foresaw tougher days ahead. Still, Phil found light in music. At 15, he played in the Capital University Band in Ohio, standing on stage with his clarinet, eyes blazing. By 16, he was a top soloist, each note a declaration of his existence. But Phil's childhood wasn't just music. At Staunton Military Academy from 1956, he learned to push back against discipline. Phil didn't bow to rigid orders, and a rebellious spirit took root. At Ohio State University, studying journalism, he met Jim Glover, a friend who opened doors to music and ideas. "If we don't speak up, who will?" Phil said to Jim, sitting in their dorm, debating the world's injustices. He wrote for the school paper, but when his work was rejected, he started his own, The Word, as if shouting to the world. A friend in Columbus recalled a night when Phil smashed a dorm mirror, whispering, "Nobody's listening to me." People called it youthful impulse, but was it? Something in Phil's eyes suggested he sensed darkness approaching. Academy records noted he was hard to integrate. Oddly, that note was later removed, unexplained. Why? Did those turbulent years plant the seeds for a Phil Ochs who craved recognition but crumbled under the world's weight? What in his stormy childhood drove him to change the world, yet pushed him to the edge? Was there a hidden secret, like that withdrawn record? Chapter 2. Dazzling fame, but at what cost? In 1965, a newspaper called Phil Ochs a traitor with a tune. He kept that clipping in a drawer, next to a stack of anonymous letters, their scrawled threats aimed at his life. But just a few years earlier, at the Newport Folk Festival, crowds stood and cheered as Phil took the stage, guitar in hand, his voice like a fire igniting the sky. What changed? Rewind to 1961, when 21-year-old Phil arrived in Greenwich Village, New York, where small bars smelled of coffee and cigarette smoke. Clutching his guitar, he stood in a corner of Gerd's Folk City in 1963, singing about a broken American dream. The audience fell silent, then erupted in applause. That was the moment Phil found his voice. When Phil sang, it wasn't just lyrics. It was the anger of a man watching friends shipped to Vietnam, never to return. His songs, like a flame, sparked hope for the anti-war movement. At the 1968 Festival of Life, as crowds burned draft cards, Phil's voice rang out, powerful, cutting through the chaos. He organized the 1975 War is Over event, declaring the Vietnam War done, despite the risk of arrest. Phil often performed free for causes, from civil rights to workers' rights, as if music was his only way to mend a fractured world. But fame wasn't just applause. The public wanted Phil to stay the rebel hero, rejecting his attempts at deeper, new music. An unverified story from a friend recalls Phil drinking alone after a show, whispering, "They won't leave me alone." Who were they? The crowd, the press, or some unseen force? Bob Dylan, a friend and rival, once said in a bar, "You're not a folk singer, you're a journalist." Those words cut Phil like a knife, making him doubt himself. On stage, hundreds called his name. But backstage, he wrote in his notebook, "I'm dying where they call it light." Threatening letters piled up after his anti-war songs. Phil kept them in an old wooden box, but strangely, it vanished after his death. Nobody knows who took it, or why. A witness said Phil once stood before a mirror, reading a threat aloud, then laughed bitterly. "They think I'll stop." He didn't. He kept singing, kept fighting, though each step seemed heavier. Were those letters just crowd anger? Or did someone want to silence Phil Ochs for good? Was his fame a double-edged sword, lifting him to the top while trapping him in relentless pressure? Or was someone determined to stop his voice? Chapter 3. Fleeting Romances and a Mysterious Letter. Alice once recalled hearing Phil cry in a Greenwich Village phone booth, his voice trembling through the foggy glass. But when she pushed open the door, he was gone, leaving only a coin rolling on the floor. Phil Ochs, who sang for the world, couldn't hold on to those closest to him. In 1963, he married Alice Skinner, a gentle woman whose smile lit up a room. The next year, they had a daughter, Megan, with eyes like her father's. But Phil was rarely home. Performances and protests pulled him away, leaving Alice alone with long nights and Megan's cries. "Phil fought for justice," Alice said in an interview, "but he forgot about us." Their marriage cracked in 1965, when Megan was 1. Alice tried to hold on, but Phil had drifted too far, not just in distance, but in spirit. After Alice, Phil had brief romances. Some left in tears, others never answered his letters. His relationship with Tina Date, an Australian folk singer, left a deep mark. Phil adored her, writing long letters across oceans. But friends said Tina often pulled back, as if wary of his intensity. Almost every night in a Greenwich Village bar, Phil sat in his usual corner, staring at an empty chair across from him, muttering. Some said he was talking to Alice. Others thought he was talking to himself. A chilling detail. A friend claimed Phil sent Alice a letter, found in his Greenwich Village apartment after his death. It read, "I'm sorry for leaving you and Megan alone." No one ever published it. Some doubt it existed. But Megan, clearing out her father's place, said she saw him tuck a folded paper into his last songbook, as if hiding it from the world. Was it a father's confession, or a child's hazy memory of loss? Phil wrote in his notebook, "Love is all I wanted, but it's what I destroyed." He yearned to be loved, but pushed those closest to him away. Night after night, Phil returned to that bar corner, eyes lost, searching for something gone. A friend recalled him murmuring, "I don't deserve them." Those words, echoing from a broken heart, make you wonder, what was Phil running from? In his final notebook, a line repeated, "I hurt the only one who loved me." Nobody knows who he meant, Alice, Tina, or himself. Chapter 4. Darkness Descends. The Tanzania Robbery and Collapse. The morning after, Phil Ochs limped back to his Dar es Salaam hotel in Tanzania, clutching his throat, face bruised and bloodied. The night before, in a dark alley, someone had choked him, leaving purple marks like a shadow's brand. What happened in that alley, and who was behind it? The 1973 attack damaged Phil's vocal cords, stealing the voice that once shook the Newport Folk Festival. Phil told a friend, "If I can't sing, I'm not me anymore." After that, he never sang a full song to an audience again. Picture Phil in his hotel room, staring in the mirror, trying to sing, hearing only a hoarse rasp, as if his soul was strangled. Phil fell into an abyss. He drank whiskey endlessly, sometimes passing out in Greenwich, village bar chairs, dim lights casting shadows on his gaunt face. Bipolar disorder, inherited from his father, flared fiercely. He muttered, "My dreams are dead." Since that night, he dreamed of being choked, waking in cold sweats, unable to scream. But some questioned the robbery. A 2021 Reddit post speculated it wasn't random, that Phil was targeted for anti-war songs that challenged the government. He whispered to a friend, "I feel like they're hunting me." The FBI, tracking him since 1963 per public records, was it involved? A chilling detail. After the robbery, Phil scribbled notes on loose paper. A friend found one reading, "They took my voice, but not my soul." That paper vanished. The friend claimed to keep it, but refused to show it. Was there something they didn't want known? If real, that defiance was a cry for help from a man feeling darkness close in. But who was the enemy? Nameless robbers in Tanzania, or a larger force in the shadows? In a bar, Phil's hands shook holding a glass, eyes lost in the void, as if he knew something unspeakable. The attack didn't just steal his voice. It pushed him onto a path with no return. Whiskey and pain became his only companions. From then on, the darkness grew thicker, as if to swallow the man who once sang for the world. That voice had defied war, government, and America itself. But it was silenced, not by bullets, but by hands in the dark. Was the Tanzania robbery a random act, or did someone want Phil Ochs' voice gone forever? Chapter 5. Paranoia and John Train, A Shattered Mind. One night in 1975, Phil Ochs walked into a Greenwich Village bar, stared at the bartender with empty eyes, and said, "I'm John Train. Phil Ochs is dead." Nobody knew if he was joking or serious. Maybe Phil himself wasn't sure. The man who once stirred crowds with anti-war songs now wandered between friends' homes and his sister Sonia's, a shadow of himself. Bipolar disorder, inherited from his father, consumed him. Whiskey became his companion, each sip pulling him deeper into darkness. Picture Phil in a room dimmed by streetlights, hands trembling around a bottle, eyes searching for something long lost. Phil grew paranoid. Declassified FBI files confirmed he was watched since 1963 for challenging the government. He knew, and it fueled the fire in his mind. Some said he dismantled a watch, suspecting it was bugged. In a cafe, he tore up a newspaper, whispering, "They're planting words here." Friends exchanged glances, unsure whether to laugh or worry. One recalled Phil pointing to an empty corner saying, "They're always there, watching me." Who were they? The FBI? The government? Or demons in his head? The John Train identity emerged as a strange escape. Phil started calling himself John Train, acting like a different person. A 2024 X post said he told friends, "Phil Ochs is dead. I'm John Train." Some fans thought he was dodging surveillance, but his family, like Sister Sonia, saw it as a sign of a broken mind. A chilling detail: a friend found a poem in Phil's apartment, reading, "The invisible enemy is coming." It had no date, no signature. The friend said half was torn off, as if someone didn't want the rest read. Was it a warning, or a product of a fractured mind? Phil stopped writing, stopped performing. He lived like a ghost, hiding from himself. Friends said he'd sit for hours, staring out windows, waiting for something that never came. Later, among his belongings, no documents bore Phil Ochs. Just scraps scrawled, John Train. Was John Train Phil's escape from pressure, or did he know a dangerous secret? Chapter 6. The Final Days. No songs, no dreams. Weeks before his death, Phil Ochs handed his old guitar to a friend, hands shaking. "I don't need it anymore," he said, forcing a smile. But his eyes held nothing alive, just a deep void, as if the light that once lit up Newport had gone out. In 1975, Phil lived at his sister Sonia's house in Far Rockaway, New York, like a ghost. He rarely left his room, often sitting by the window, watching rain fall on gray streets. Sonia said Phil's eyes had lost their light, as if he no longer belonged to this world. His 1975 War is Over event, declaring the Vietnam War done, flopped badly. "I tried," he told a friend, "but nobody cares." Phil once loved Greenwich Village parties, drinking, smoking, debating politics till dawn. Now he avoided people, drowning in whiskey and cigarettes. Liquor wasn't joy anymore. It was a slow death. An unverified story from a friend claims Phil said, "When I go, I want nobody to explain why." Those words felt like a silent goodbye, as if he'd chosen a departure without answers. He stopped writing, stopped performing. In his final days, Phil sat in a small room, clutching a bottle, eyes lost in the void. A chilling detail: a note was found tucked in his notebook, its final page torn in half, stained with coffee and cigarette ash. It read, "No more songs, no more dreams." That paper, like a fragment of Phil's soul, seemed his last words. Sonia said he'd sit for hours, watching rain, waiting for something that never came. On April 9th, 1976, Phil took his life in Sonia's home. No suicide note, no explanation. The room where he died had no music, no light, just a shadow on the wall. Nobody heard Phil Ochs again. In those final days, did he foresee his fate or carry a secret to his grave? Conclusion: a legacy, an unanswered mystery. Phil Ochs died in silence, but somehow that silence echoes in every protest song today. Tracks like "I Ain't Marching Anymore" and "There But For Fortune" still ring out at rallies, from civil rights to anti-war causes. Billy Wattie, Bragg, Ani DeFranco, and others have covered his music, keeping his rebellious spirit alive. The 2010 documentary Phil Ochs, There But For Fortune, and the 1979 book Death of a Rebel tell his story. Not just a singer, but a man who gave everything for his ideals. A 2024 X post mentioned a 1986 memorial uncovering an unreleased recording, like a hidden treasure in Phil's legacy. But his story isn't just music. It's a lesson about the cost of ideals. He fought for justice, but couldn't save himself. Bipolar disorder, alcoholism, and public pressure drove him into darkness. Yet scattered clues make you wonder, was there more? An apology letter to Alice, never confirmed. A half-torn poem about an invisible enemy. A name, John Train, nobody traced. A note, I'm not here anymore. Were they cries for help or signals for those who'd understand? FBI files confirm he was watched since 1963 for his activism. The Tanzania robbery, threatening letters, and odd behavior spark speculation. Some fans on Reddit in 2021 believed he was targeted for his politics. But his family, like Sonia, insisted Phil was a victim of his own mind. The question lingers in that old Far Rockaway room, where a voice that fired up America became a whisper. Who did Phil Ochs fight? The world or himself? In the comments, share your thoughts. Do those notes, whispers, and final silence point to a bigger secret, or just the echo of a broken soul?